that, we have an interesting situation this evening. We were expecting a quorum. We do not have a quorum this evening due to various medical issues and travel items. So as with that, we can go ahead and go into roll call.
All right, Commissioner DeMond.
Here.
Vice Chair Holt.
Here.
And we will note that Chair Hernandez, Commissioner Evans, and Commissioner Benjamin are absent this evening.
Great. So with that, toss over to Scott, our city attorney, to discuss how we want to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Holt. Yeah, and members of the public, we do apologize about the lack of quorum, but given the the situation right now, we are going to have to continue both items to a date certain. If there is any public comment, we could take that. It's not related to the projects on the agenda, but we will be continuing both items to a date certain. Therefore, further noticing won't be required.
So, just so I can understand and the public can understand, we'll be taking general public comment. Will we be receiving public comment on the items on the agenda, or?
All right, thanks. I'm new here. Heather Minner, Deputy City Attorney, is sick this evening, and so I'm covering this meeting. Public comment is, generally for items that are not on the agenda. Here we essentially don't have an agenda of actionable items. So I would welcome the public if you'd like to speak. You can go ahead and speak on any item, but do note that the substantive items on tonight's agenda will be considered at the May 22nd meeting.
Great. So the items that are on our agenda are technically no longer on our agenda because we do not have an agenda. So we welcome public comment on any item, essentially. Thank you very much. I apologize, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. So with that, I do have 3 public comment cards. If there are other members of the public who wish to speak on really anything, please feel free to fill out a public comment card. They're available up at the table there. With that, we can open up public comments. So my first card here is Mike Ferreira. I'm sorry, Mike, just a second. Okay. Right, we don't have anything on the queue. Sorry, apologize. Go ahead, Mike.
My name is Mike Ferreira with the Sierra Club. I wasn't here to comment generally. I was here to comment specifically on the 32 Jenna Lane project. I might as well get it off my chest. I was the Planning Commission chair when the first permit was given, and I negotiated with the developer for a 100-foot buffer zone from the creek. So I am left without explanation as to where that went, why we now have a 50-foot, and why the existing residence was built into that 100-foot buffer zone. I'm not the only one that's asked that question. Commissioner Conway asked what happened to that buffer zone. It was also asked by Commissioner Benjamin, and I have also addressed it in public, and it is still unaddressed as to how a residence that was placed, much to the distress of the residents, was also placed in a buffer zone. So I guess we'll come back to that and other issues when we have the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Our next card is Amber Stowe.
Thank you. This is in reference to the proposed hotel. If you've glanced at local social media, you'll see that members of our community have found the proposed dunes at Half Moon Bay development to be very alarming. Not just because this proposal comes hot on the heels of another large hotel development, but because we have yet to see the impact of other recent developments in our area, specifically the Best Western on Wavecrest and the Pacific Ridge Tract. In just the 7 years I have lived here, traffic in Half Moon Bay has increased from a nuisance on event days like Pumpkin Festival and Dream Machines to snarls and backups every weekend between April and October. It is a level of traffic that can turn a quick drive to the grocery store into a half-hour ordeal and will make conditions untenable for residents and visitors alike if we add another 400 to 500 cars per day on our roads. That's assuming 1 car per unit of the hotel, and that's not adding in the new patrons of the Best Western, staying right across the street from another 150 patrons at the proposed Hyatt. Half Moon Bay's geography is uniquely unforgiving. We hug the coastline. We effectively have only 2 roads in and out of town. This will be the 2nd oversized hotel proposal on Highway 1 in less than 3 months. I grew up in Southern California. I watched my hometown's local planning commission rubber stamp development after development until the semi-rural town I grew up in became an overcrowded suburb. But my hometown had a pre-existing 6-lane highway running by it. We don't have that luxury. So what do you suppose this hotel will do to Cabrillo Highway? Every day at rush hour, traffic grinds to a halt around Strawflower, and the backup extends in all directions, and on weekends spills over to the neighborhoods in downtown. What is this commission's plan for an extra 500 cars per day going through that choke point? Is it to endlessly widen the highway, or are we going to do block by block stoplights until Half Moon Bay resembles Malibu? What's the end game? The positive impacts of this development, increased revenue and visibility, are far outweighed by the negative in the form of increased traffic, increased strain on our infrastructure, and further overcrowding of our beaches. The Dunes proposal is too much development too soon and too fast, and neglects to take into account the impact on our roads and residents. Increased traffic congestion is a major concern for San Mateo County voters and the Bay Area at large. How is adding a hotel and convention center going to improve that?
Thank you. The next card I have is Christina Conklin.
Hello, I'm Christina Conklin. I live in the Casa del Mar neighborhood, and I was exceedingly alarmed to learn about this hotel development with very little, if any, public awareness of it before. I think the women before me spoke well to the traffic concerns. I walk the coastal trail every single day, and to have a pristine environment that is used by thousands of our local residents, to have it blighted by a hotel and all the attendant parking that's going to go there, right next to the state parks group camp at Sweetwood Campground and our lovely Dunes Beach, which is already eroding intensely with no, very few public amenities. We're either going to have to pave that all to make it suitable for the hotel patrons, or we're going to have, and regardless, we'd have to look at this horrific structure right in the middle of our green space. And I don't think this is what we as co-siters have worked so hard to protect through our land trust and our local coastal plan. I just don't see any value in this addition to our community. The livability factors alone. Now, I also happen to be an expert on sea level rise, and I'm writing a book currently that will come out in a couple of years about the impacts of global climate change on the ocean. And one of the chapters we're going to be writing is about coastal bluff erosion, cliff erosion. And there are communities all over this world, from Sydney to Nantucket, that are literally falling into the sea. And what we've done with our jetty development and the wave actions that's getting pushed down Surfers Beach, that is forcing us to continue to rip-rap segment by segment by segment, that is going to continue to happen. And the wave action will push more strongly to the south. I live to the south of this development. As this happens, and this is only maybe 2 decades out. So whatever gets paved stays paved. Whatever happens here is going to be here for a long time, and literally it is going to cause us a continuing series of abatement measures that it's going to include armoring our entire bay line. And I think that would be the ultimate ecological tragedy for Half Moon Bay. I want to know where the Coast Commission is on this and if they've done an environmental impact report, and if so, what does it say? And I want that brought to the public light. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next card I have is Faden Hombo. Apologize if I didn't get that correct.
My name is Faden Hombo, and I'm talking about the 32 Jenna Lane. I've been out here 50 years, 35 years of it. I always bought my home so I could see the ocean. And on September 18th, 2001, 1 week after 9/11, we had a very ceremonious city council meeting, and that was to tidy up all of the loose ends and agree to the Matucci project, which 32 Jenna Lane is a part of. And it was televised that these agreements would be made, and we all agreed on the complaint side, and Bob Williamson, who also flew in under the radar, getting that 10-acre parcel okayed. I read the Half Moon Bay Review every week religiously, cover to cover. It was never mentioned. Anyway, the thing was, he agreed to these 13 agreements, and next day we went to the city hall. Everybody signed it. They stamped it. We thought that was some sort of an official stamp. And when they started kind of like, growing hedges where they didn't belong and trees and everything, went to the city council and they said, oh, that's not worth the paper it's written on. And yet it was brokered by the mayor of the time. And I think her heart was pure when she tried to make that happen, as well as Mike here. But anyway, so I have two questions. Having lost my ocean view, that I think it finally grew out of sight about 15 years ago. On page A.2.1, A2.1, it says, existing cypress trees along eastern property line shall be trimmed to a height of 7 feet. Now, that's my property line. That's my west property line. That'd be great. Except, to my knowledge, there are no cypress trees in this large area of about 50, 60 feet that you guys are using to show the area. Most of those trees, are fir and pine. And they're 45 feet tall. They weren't even supposed to be there. I'm outraged. I'm hurt. I'm stunned. I stopped reading the newspaper. I haven't bought one since that date. I don't trust you. I'm offended what happened. We were laughed out of the city council about 5 years after the agreement. Person's word here meant nothing. Loopholes, Swiss cheese. So the second one is this. Do the heights of the hedges and the trees mentioned apply only to the present owner, like it did to the developer? Or is it something that is going to be written in that has to be done by anyone who buys 32 Jenna Lane in the future? Is it written in such a way that it's legally binding? And if so, where is this agreement that is legally binding? We didn't have that the last time. We thought a handshake was good enough. it's not good enough this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is the last public comment card I have. Is there any other members from the public who wish to speak? Please. You can grab a card and fill it out afterwards.
Well, I'm not prepared, wasn't really planning on speaking, but I'm just here on behalf of my fellow Miramar residents, about the dunes, proposed dunes, trailer park and conference center and whatnot. And just reiterating our shock and dismay that it's even being considered. I know it's maybe not even at that point yet, but I grew up on the coast here for the most part, between here and an hour east of here, and have seen the development, like has been mentioned. Live and work here on the coast, love it, will probably die here. Raising my family here, bought my first home at 40 years old, worked 2 jobs, so on and so forth, right? I don't want to get too dramatic here, but I'm feeling like this is it for us, and we were hoping that it would continue to be as it has been and not turn into something like Huntington Beach, let's say, which I also kind of witnessed in the early 90s, go from a sleepy little beach town to strip malls and high-rises. So it seems a little eerily familiar to me. And so, again, I feel like I would love to see us focus on what we have. Every single incident, every single festival, everything brings this town to its knees. And we are just, crippled with traffic and congestion, so on and so forth. And so I don't see how we can handle anything else. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to close the public comment period. Just mention per the Brown Act, we're not able to respond directly to comments that are made during the public comment period. So we do listen and we pay attention. And just wanted to make the point that that I know there's been a lot of chatter online and elsewhere regarding the Dunes Hotel, regarding other hotels. Very much on the Planning Commission's radar, very much on the City Council's radar. I wouldn't necessarily presume that any of us are taking any certain position at this point, taking in the information, and imagine both have a very long and extensive process ahead of them. So that's what we're committed to doing. So with that, do we have anything else to do here?
No, as was stated earlier, unfortunately, we don't have a quorum tonight, so the commission can't take any action on anything. I would suggest to staff, for those speakers who spoke on the Jenna Lane project, let's make sure that those comments get
Thank you. Yeah.
transmitted to the full commission for the next meeting.
Yeah, if we could ensure to incorporate those comments moving forward. So we can close the meeting. Thank you all, and apologies again. The next meeting, thank you. Next meeting will be May 22nd. This agenda will essentially carry over to May 22nd. Am I saying that right? Yes, May 22nd.